What's good, young investors, and welcome back to the channel. Actually, in today's video, I'm going to be answering the most asked investing questions that I see on the daily on the internet. I also did a questionnaire poll on my Instagram to compile a couple more questions for you guys as well, so that you guys can get a chance to, have a couple of your questions answered as well. If you guys want to take part in the next poll for a future video, feel free to follow my Instagram. It's going to be down in the description below. I'm always sharing more nuggets of information through my socials, and it's also one of the best ways to get in contact with me if you guys have any more questions. And of course, before we get into today's video, I wanted to hit you guys with the gem of the day. And for today's gem of the day, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Something that does stick with you though is drive. Find what drives you, and you won't need motivation to do the things that you want to do. Trust me, you guys. Once you actually find what drives you, you won't need motivation to get up in the morning. And so without further ado, I want to get into the questions of today's video. And the first question goes as follows. Did I choose my companies myself, or did I have advice or picks from anybody else? I personally chose the companies myself. I didn't have anybody to give me picks or anything like that. To give you guys a small gist of what I actually look into in a company before I invest in it, I look into two things. The quantitative and the qualitative part of a company. And to keep it simple for you guys, I look into the numbers of a company, and I also look at what they do. Will what they do be around in years to come? Is what they do a necessity? Is it needed in the marketplace? I'll be sure to work on a video for you guys so that I can teach you guys how I thoroughly look into a company, so that you guys can, hopefully take something out of that video and use it for yourself. So, next question goes like this. When is the right time to buy a stock? Alright, so there really isn't a right time to buy a stock per se. Nobody really knows what the future is going to bring. So if you end up waiting for prices to go lower before you guys buy, they might actually just keep going up. Nobody really knows. Nobody can predict the future. I don't care who you are. Myself, for example, if there's a company that I'm looking at and I really like it because, I've done my due diligence, I'll just buy it at the price that it's at. And if it starts to go lower, of course I'm going to buy more of it. And vice versa as well. If the company starts to go higher, I'll just average into that price as well. That's called dollar cost averaging. I basically buy periodically, whether the stock is going up or the stock is going down. And so the next question goes like this. Am I invested in index funds, or am I strictly invested in individual companies? That's actually a really good question. For those of you that don't know, an index fund is a basket of companies that you can buy into that also pays you a dividend like a single company would. Index funds are considered a more passive investment, since you basically just buy into hundreds of companies at once. This in turn takes away most of the front end research that you have to do, as you're just buying hundreds of companies, whether they're good or bad. They're just all in the index fund. They're all in the basket. If a stock in the index fund goes bankrupt or stops paying its dividend, the index fund will just take it out and replace it with another one. Index funds also tend to have lower returns. As mentioned earlier, you'll be owning tons of companies at once, which means some of your great companies that are going up in price might be being held down by, the other companies in the portfolio that are going down in price. As of right now, I personally don't own any index funds. Who knows, maybe I might in the future. I personally invest in a few bonds, and the rest of the holdings in my portfolio are stocks. To be honest with you guys, I personally like doing the research, looking into companies and, looking at balance sheets, their assets and stuff like that. I thoroughly enjoy it myself. I do, however, own index funds in my retirement portfolio, and I'll be sure to link that video in the description or somewhere here on the video. And the next question for today's video is how to start investing, and how much money do you need to start? This is actually a question that I see being asked about a lot on the internet, and to me personally, in terms of actually starting, you'll need about $100 to $200 for an initial deposit. The cool thing is that nowadays, most brokerages don't even require you to have an initial deposit to open up an account with them. Now, in terms of how much you'll actually need to start investing, it kind of depends. Brokerages are actually starting to offer this thing called fractional shares, which, to keep it simple, basically just lets you buy a small part of a stock instead of buying the whole thing. Let's say, for example purposes, you guys want to buy Google, but it costs $1,300 for a single share. Fractional shares actually give you the ability to buy however much you can afford of Google. For example, instead of going all in and buying one share of Google for $1,300, you can put in however much you can afford it. It could be $10, $15, or $20. And the cool thing is, you just keep adding more of what you can afford until you get one full share of Google. Before, you'd actually need to buy full shares of stocks to be able to invest, which could get really expensive really fast. Brokerages like M1 Finance, Fidelity, Robinhood are starting to offer things like fractional shares, which in turn makes investing really accessible for people that don't have a lot of money. So you guys could theoretically start with $10, $20, $30. If you guys are using a brokerage that offers fractional shares, you don't need thousands of dollars to start. You can literally just open an account and if they require an initial deposit, you do that. And then you can start investing with $10, $15, $20 even. So it's really up to you guys. Now, I personally started with $1,000, but that's because I had done my research before. I was waiting until I turned 18 to actually open an account, and I was prepared with cash. But let's say for example purposes, I didn't have much money and I actually wanted to open up a brokerage account. I would have done the same thing. M1 Finance requires an $100 initial deposit. I would have done that, and then I probably would have just invested $10, $15, $20. Now, next up, how to actually choose a brokerage to invest with. There are actually so many brokerages to invest with now. You guys have so many options that it can get a little bit difficult to actually choose one for yourself. There are, however, a couple things that I personally looked for when I was choosing a brokerage to invest with that actually might help you guys. So what I personally did was I looked at 3 things before investing in a brokerage or choosing a brokerage to invest with. Number 1, is the brokerage reliable? Do they have a history of backfiring or shutting down? I mean, just recently, Robinhood's systems actually backfired on them and shut down, and people lost millions because they couldn't make any trades. Number 2, do they have good customer service? What if I have some questions about the brokerage or about my holdings that, I want answered? Are they easily accessible? That's the second thing that I look for. And the third and final thing that I personally looked for is, do they offer any incentives for my investing style or my investing strategy? In my case, the brokerage that I ended up choosing was actually made for my type of investing strategy. Dividend growth investing or, long-term investing. M1 Finance offered things that I personally liked. They had a nice interface. They had auto invest. They had pies that I don't think anybody else offers, which makes things really clean and basically lets you make your own index funds, which is pretty cool. And things like that. They offered things that other brokerages didn't offer that suited my investing style, which is why I chose it. It was like choosing a shoe. Which size fit me the best? And those are 3 personal things that I did that I'm sure you guys could do as well to help you choose, what brokerage you can use to invest with. And if you guys actually do end up choosing M1 Finance, the brokerage that I personally use, there's gonna be a link in the description down below that lets you sign up with them. And once you fund your account, we both get $10 to invest, which is pretty cool. And so the last question in today's video isn't really a finance or investing question. It's more of a productivity question. And it's how to stay motivated / productive. As I mentioned earlier in today's gem of the day, I don't really have motivation per se. I have drive. I personally found what drives me, which is to be able to provide for myself and my family and to be able to build generational wealth, which is to build a stable foundation financially so that, my future generations can continue to build off of what I started. Now, that's what personally gets me up in the morning. You guys need to find what gets you up in the morning, and I promise you, you won't need motivation anymore. Because at that point, you'll be driven by something much bigger than motivation, whether it's a goal or whatever it may be. And as for productivity, I'm the type of person that gets distracted easily by my own ideas and by things around me. So as a result of that, I like to keep a clean space around me when I work, and I also get rid of things that I don't need that are around me. Sometimes I get rid of my phone and put it in a different room if I don't need it to do what I'm currently doing. To keep things simple, I basically just keep things I don't need out of the way. What I also tend to do that I found that personally works for me is I plan my week every Sunday. Like I just mentioned, what I typically do is take some time out of the day to plan my week. And I usually do it before I go to bed. What I'll do is I'll basically just jot down everything I need to do for the week coming up, from most important to least important. And once I do that, I'll just delegate which ones I need to do first, on which day in terms of urgency. Now, as I just mentioned earlier, this personally works for me. If you guys would like to try it out, you guys can. If it doesn't work for you, just try something else out. Keep trying stuff until something that you guys find works for you. Remember, we're all like puzzles. A piece that fits me might not fit you, and vice versa. And that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it and found something interesting or learned new things in today's video. And I hope that you guys like the new environment. I figured you guys might be getting bored of my room, so I came out here for a change. Like the video. It lets me know that you guys are enjoying the content that I'm putting out for you. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really does help out. And comment down below if you guys have any more questions you guys would like to be answered. I'll be more than glad to do so in another video. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, peace.